Welcome to the Success with Jewelry podcast, where we invite you inside our conversations about business success and marketing for jewelry designers and entrepreneurs. This week, we're sharing one of our extended episodes so you can get a preview of what we offer to insiders.
We're Liz and Laryssa, jewelry marketing experts with a combined 16 years of experience in jewelry marketing and proven track records in helping jewelry brands meet their goals. When you listen to or watch this podcast, you get an intimate and exclusive peek behind the curtain of all the things you wish you could know about earning success in the jewelry industry.
Welcome to episode 8. In this episode, we'll be talking about the jewelry brands that catch our eye and why. So we'll be chatting about what are the things that make a jewelry brand catch our eye, how can other brands like yours get our attention, and what are those secret ingredients? What can help create longevity for a jewelry brand so they're not just a passing interest or fad in the eyes of consumers? And then we'll also share some specific jewelry brands we love to follow and why. All of our previous episodes have extended versions just like this one, and you can join now to hear them all. Membership is just $20 a month for weekly extended episodes, personal engagement and interaction by us, free webinars, courses, active group discussion community, and more. You can sign up by visiting successwithjewelry.com. We've also just added our 6-part webinar series that walks you through everything you need to know about digital marketing for your business. Hey Liz, let's get into it.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk about this because I look at a lot of jewelry brands, and I'm sure you do too, Laryssa.
All day long, every day.
So what are some of the things that make a jewelry brand catch your eye?
Yeah, well, I think the number one thing is when a brand is truly doing something unique. And I don't just mean that in regard to the product, because I think a lot of brands only look at that one thing when they're trying to decide if they're being unique or not. But I think when I say uniqueness, I mean it could be their products, it could be their merchandising, it could be the story that they're telling, or like any combination of those three things together.
I agree. I think that a lot of times it's the way the product's presented and not the actual product that is really exciting. And I'm actually thinking about Spinelli Kilcolin because I love their rings, but I think it's because of the way that it's merchandised, the way that they present it, such a tight collection. If I were to see that ring in maybe a busier collection or one with not such a strong vision or the way that they're presenting it, I think I might not love it as much.
That's a great example. And I think speaking to that brand, they've really committed to this one design and leaned into it so much that, yeah, like you're saying, if there was a designer who just had that style ring as one product in a bigger collection, it would probably just completely get lost on us.
Yeah, it's like that idea of focusing before you diversify, and that could pinhole you, and maybe there's some negative things that could happen with that. But I think that really being clear on what you're trying to get out there and how you're trying to get it out there is huge for being something that catches people's eye and also stays in their brains.
Absolutely. What are some things that catch your eye? What are some characteristics for you?
So also storytelling, and I manage a lot of Instagram accounts. I look at Instagram a lot, and I'm a reader, so I get drawn into the story. Anytime a designer is posting their face or sharing an aspect of their inspiration that I didn't know about before, I'm drawn in. And especially when this storytelling is kind of really consistent, and that's one of the reasons why I loved working for Todd Reed, and I still love his brand because I was so invested in that story. And I always use this example, but May Lindstrom is a high-end skincare brand. I feel like I'm very attracted to her story. I love hearing more aspects of it. And then the other brand I always talk about, East Fork Pottery, is so good at storytelling. So I'm really drawn in when I can connect with and consistently hear a brand story.
Me too. I love a good story. And I actually kind of like when a brand is pushing a story so much that I'm like, okay, I get it. I I kind of like that because it means that it's truly like fallen on me, like it sits with me and I fully understand it when there are so many brands that are so forgettable that I wish that they would almost like annoy me with their story.
I agree. Foundry is actually another one that does it really well, and they encourage you to tell your story with their jewelry, which I think is really, really smart because jewelry does tell a story, and most people wear pieces based on meaning and it feeling meaningful, especially when you're selling fine jewelry. I was on a Zoom recently, and I was looking at a designer's page as they were chatting, and um, what was I going to say about this? Oh, so I didn't know their story, and I had just looked at their Instagram page, and then they started telling me the story about the talismans they were designing and the history of them and why they were inspired to create these things. And I was so much more drawn in, and seeing the jewelry with that backstory, I liked it a lot more.
Did you tell them they need to like amplify that more? Because
I did.
it probably seems like they aren't doing it enough.
I did, and they are headed that direction, so I'm really excited to see where they go with it.
That's awesome. I think too, like being consistent with that story as well, like because of wherever a brand is putting their focus, whether it's on Instagram or on email marketing, sometimes they put that story mostly on that one platform and then forget to also like bring it up in other places, and then it falls flat like in email, for example, or on their website. So it's really important to have that same like amplification on in every way that you're interacting with your customers.
Yeah, you've heard us say this, and we will continue to say it, and we will never stop saying it, but consistency is everything. Even down to how you talk about your collection in person and at shows, and when you meet somebody at the grocery store, it needs to all be so in line, and that's one of the things that really I think makes a brand stand out. Also, just like wowing us with social media posts, like, having an interesting point of view with, again, the way they're presenting their collections. Those are all things that kind of make a jewelry brand stand out and catch our eyes.
And making sure that the visuals are like really on point, that they're polished, that they're professional, that we can tell that they've invested time, effort, money into like a very beautiful and coherent visual presentation. And there are some brands that have like amazing, beautiful products. They got the story on point, but then the pictures or even like the graphics or the palette don't really reflect that. So it's important for that to work as well.
Yeah, definitely investing into the marketing that you're doing for your product is huge, or even just a time investment, like, just the layout of the photos or the props you're using. Even if you're just still at the point where you're using a phone to take photos, putting the time in to make sure that they're really lovely is really great and helps you stand out.
And I think we can definitely tell when like a designer or a business owner is phoning it in a little bit or like is feeling kind of uninspired. It still might look great. It still might be saying the story, but there's just this element of like, I don't know, unenthusiasm there. Like maybe the person is burned out or they feel like they run out of things to say. So as a business owner, I think it's really important to keep connecting with that why with yourself and finding the motivation to keep putting yourself out there, because we can definitely tell like when it's just a habit or a routine.
Yeah, definitely. You can start to tell that, but a lot of times the passion behind a collection is what sells it for me too. Obviously, I already mentioned I'm very into storytelling and the meaning behind pieces and all of that, but your passion can help sell your product. So even if you maybe don't have a ton of great photos that you can be sharing, or you need to figure out a way to kind of, amp up your brand, or put marketing out there before you can invest big money into the imagery and the graphics and stuff like that, leading with your passion will go a long way.
Definitely. So let's talk about these like secret ingredients that brands can infuse into their brand identity and marketing to be that like brand that stands out. What are some action items that they can do?
Well, really similarly to what I was just saying, the passion behind the brand and the collection is being able to communicate that and communicate that your product is more than just a pretty pendant or a pretty necklace, a pretty piece of jewelry. It's so much more than that. So being able to communicate those things, that your brand has meaning and there's something behind it, and you, the artist, are passionate about what you're doing, all of that will really help you stand out.
Yeah, and for designers to get out of the habit of talking about their brand like it's a cover letter for like a job. I see so many designers, if I go to their brand story or I kind of read more about them, it just reads like a resume of like the training they've had or the awards they've won or the jobs they've had in the industry. That's not really important to the consumer, especially a consumer who's outside of the jewelry industry. So going beyond that and tapping into the thing that is more substantial than just like the checklist of milestones that you've hit in your career.
It's one of the reasons why one of the first questions in branding that we ask is, what is your why? Like, what is driving your brand? Because without that, if you're just in this business to make money, I've seen it time and time again, you're likely going to struggle to get there. Having that story behind it, having that passion for what you do will really make a huge difference and is like the biggest secret ingredient to catching people's eye.
That's so true. I think also getting super intimate with your target customer, not being afraid to niche down. We've talked about this in the past on the podcast. Getting so clear that you can like imagine them in your mind's eye and like speak directly to them, and not being afraid of alienating people who are outside of that, just being super focused, because in that way you will get the brand story to be exactly where you need it to be.
Yeah, and really talking to your client, you just said this, but it's really important that you're not just always talking about yourself or how it makes you feel, really shifting the narrative and the way you're speaking about your brand to bring people into your world and make them think about themselves wearing the jewelry and being a part of your brand.
That's a great point. I think that brands should shoot for like 80 to 90% making it about the customer, and then 10 to 20% making it about you and your brand. So always thinking about, how is this providing value? How is this speaking to the customer? How can I make this less about me and what I care about and what I want and why I did this or that?
That's another benefit to storytelling and sharing more than just the product, because a lot of people can probably connect to what inspires you or the meaning behind your pieces.
Yeah. And I think also not being afraid to take risks as well. Like making a goal maybe once a month, once a quarter, to do something that kind of makes you feel really uncomfortable with your marketing, that's going to push your boundaries that you haven't tried before, and setting a goal to do that. But then not only that, but knowing what to measure, whatever like key performance indicator metric is going to help you know, is this working or not working? Because just because you're taking risks, you're going to want to know, should I pull back from this? Like, should I keep leaning into it? You need to have a way to kind of gauge whether or not that's working, so it's not just like willy-nilly.
I love the take risk thing because you need to step outside of the box a little bit. You can't just, a lot of brands just want to keep doing what everybody else is doing or really stay in line with what feels really comfortable to them. But it's okay to really have a great idea that's different, that nobody's done before, and run with it, because it will make your brand stand out in a really big way. And that risk could even be maybe something that's not huge or huge amounts of money. Maybe it's just you showing up live regularly and talking to your audience. That's something that a lot of brands don't do. And I think that this is another example we use a lot, but we're going to get to some new examples. But I always love mentioning Marla Aaron because she takes huge risks. Like she did a gumball machine kind of thing, and she put it out there and people could buy, or no, it was a vending machine. That's what it was. It was not a gumball machine, a vending machine for her product, which is so out of the box, so crazy. But I remember it, and she got a ton of press on it. So thinking outside the box and trying something new will make your brand stand out. Definitely.
Yeah. So, yeah, you mentioned a great example going live, even like trying to pursue partnerships, which I think a lot of indie jewelry brands are not doing. And that's not, it doesn't have to be an influencer, although that might be a good fit. It could be a partnership with another brand outside of the industry. It could be another brand in the industry that's not your competitor. But finding ways to work with other creators, other business owners to expose your brand to new audiences. I think that more brands should be doing that as well.
Even if it's just locally too. Maybe there's a local clothing store. You live in a small town, there's a local clothing store that makes sense to do an event with, and you really tap into that local audience. That's a great idea too. Pursuing partnerships is, I agree, a completely great idea that a lot of independent brands aren't quite tapping into yet. But when you're kind of pursuing this idea, remember, it doesn't need to be a huge thing. It can be something really small and localized, and it could make a big impact.
So I think we should talk about, it's one thing to try new stuff, get noticed in the here and now, but how can we take that to the next level and really create longevity for a brand so that they're not just like a passing trend or fad, but consistently customers are noticing them?
Yeah, so it's knowing your brand and sticking with it. So I'm trying to use a word other than stay consistent, but really sticking with your voice, your identity, and feeling really confident about it. And I think that that's one of the great reasons to hire somebody if you're able to, because me as a marketer, I've talked to many designers off the, I want to change everything kind of ledge. A lot of creatives want to constantly be doing something new, or maybe they get bored of what they're doing. If something's in production for 6 months and then it's finally making it out in the world, you're going to maybe, as a business owner, be sick of it already, or feel like it's been out there and people should know, or you've, been talking about something nonstop, but your audience hasn't seen it yet, or showing up regularly with the same story, the same brand voice. That's what's going to lead to sales and longevity.
Absolutely. And I think another common mistake or misstep that the more indie brands take, and it's because sometimes they don't have a huge budget to invest in their business, but they only decide to focus on marketing or invest in marketing when stuff slows down for them. Or maybe they're not distracted by like trade show season or production or whatever it is. And so then marketing just gets a focus only sometimes, and it's difficult to really build momentum from that and even learn from your marketing so that you can continue like making decisions. And I personally believe, of course, I'm biased because I'm a marketer, but I think marketing is your business and your business is marketing, and that it should be a continuous effort 100% all the time. So trying to at least get to close to that point and really be focused on marketing as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's hard when you have to be at the bench and you have to do all of these things and you have to figure out your accounting, and it's a lot of stuff to manage. But I completely agree with you that staying out there, thinking about marketing, thinking about new ideas, maybe you can't execute them all the time, but having a running list and setting aside time to brainstorm. I know you've worked for brands before, Laryssa, internally, and now you obviously work with brands externally, but you have to have brainstorming meetings. Like maybe it's once a month, maybe it's quarterly. When I was with Todd Reed, we'd meet every Monday and talk about marketing, and a lot of those meetings would be just brainstorming ideas and thinking about what we could do in the future, even if the future was a year away. So being on top of it, just in a sense of coming up with ideas and being forward thinking, I think is helpful.
I feel like 75% of my job is brainstorming, honestly.
It's a lot of that. And then when an idea from your list makes sense, then it's, really figuring out how to make it happen. So so important to set aside that time. And I think that I talk to creative makers, designers a lot, and I think that that's something that kind of always falls to the bottom of the list, is setting aside time to just have space to be creative. And that's part of marketing, it's part of designing. I think that setting aside that type of time is crucial.
Also, I think, it's important to be intentional with those things, but not relying on luck or like waiting for a big break. I think some people are like, oh, if only I could like get my jewelry on insert celebrity here or in insert magazine here, that's going to be my big break. It's going to solve all my business problems. And that is not a good mindset to have. Like, it would be amazing if that happens and it's the big break for your business, but it's really not the thing that you should be striving toward.
Yeah, and I've also seen many times that big PR break, dressing Beyonce, not lead to overnight success. And I think that a lot of business owners, not just specific to the jewelry industry, think they're going to get to this point where things get easier, or you just hit this point where it's like, oh, we're successful now. And it's not like that. It's kind of this constant building and working to get to a place where you want to keep growing. So then you have to keep thinking and working and growing from there. So I don't know if that made sense or not, but business, there's no end point in business. We're constantly going. There's nothing that's magical that's going to make your brand, suddenly hit this magical point. So I completely agree with that. And with PR in general, which we should do an episode about PR and kind of dive into it a bit further. But with PR, it's very strategic and you have to be constantly pursuing it. So even if you don't have a new collection or a new story to share, you want to be reaching out to editors monthly.
That's a great point that you made about the evolution and how there will always be something else to kind of figure out as you grow. I think simultaneously, you also need to keep exploring your target customer, because the customer may change or grow with you. They may expect different things as you change and grow. So even that is like its own evolving beast, and you need to continue finding ways to interact with them as much as possible, learning more about them, being curious about them. The target customer, understanding of them is not a one and done situation.
Yeah, and I find artists have a lot of great opportunities to do that when you're at trade shows, when you're at direct-to-consumer events. Those are great opportunities to get to know your customer, and I don't think we always think about them that way. But also, the way people are responding to your Instagram posts, the way people are responding to your email marketing, what people are purchasing, all of that can help you understand your target customer more. And it's something, I love the point you're making here about it always evolving.
Yeah. So why don't we talk about some jewelry brands we love to follow and why they catch our eye?
Yeah, let's get into it. So one of the examples we have here is Stephanie Gottlieb. I think I pronounced her name wrong. Stephanie Gottlieb. And I wanted to put this on the list too. I know you put this on the list, but this is a brand I think about a lot, and an Instagram account I think about a lot, because she uses trends really well. And your brand might not be one to like be doing all the TikTok trends, and maybe that doesn't make sense for you, but she does all of these trends. She's always kind of thinking outside of the box. She makes you kind of want to buy something, like you're going to be missing out if you don't.
Oh, 100%. She does such a great job of cultivating desire. I feel like whether her aesthetic is your style or not, you cannot help but look at it. It's almost like, I don't know, think about being a teenager and there's like the cool girl at school. Like, whether you like her or not, you can't help but notice like what she's wearing and what she's doing, and it's just hard to ignore. And I feel like that is just what Stephanie Gottlieb's Instagram is.
She makes it feel kind of accessible too, though. Like, she was the nice popular girl, or she's the nice popular girl. She like kind of invites you into her world, and she wants you to be a part of it, which I think is kind of a cool aspect to what she does, because it's not easy to do. It's not easy to create a community around your brand, but it's hugely effective.
That's a great point. It's aspirational in a way. And she does sell some more lower price, more affordable stuff, but a lot of the things she shows on Instagram are very expensive, but at the same time, not alienating anyone in a way. It's not like, oh, you can't see this or like imagine it on yourself. It's aspirational in like a very balanced way.
I agree with that. What other social media brands do you love?
Yeah, so I also don't know if I'm gonna pronounce this correctly, but Atelier Nabar, and they are a Lebanese jewelry brand. And I always look forward to seeing their Instagram posts because they're super creative, they're visually stunning and beautiful. But not only that, because there's a lot of brands that have beautiful photography, it feels inspired. Like, it feels to me like whoever is running that social media account or their marketing is getting excited about it, and they're excited to come up with ideas, and that energy comes through. It's like truly, I don't know, it just, you feel you want to be excited with them, and it makes the jewelry feel very fun and playful too, which their brand is. It's fine jewelry, but it's definitely more, has a more of a fun vibe to it.
I actually didn't look at their page until just now, which great, Liz. Good job prepping for the podcast. But it's so funny because looking at this brand, I would probably see this and be like, Laryssa would love this. I don't know what it is about it. I think it's because it's really professional, but also very fun and very colorful. And they lead with the story too, which is interesting. Fourth generation jewelers, that's where they start. And so they have this story woven into this really beautiful imagery and this really well done jewelry, it looks like from the photos and videos.
Yeah, and every time they release a new product or collection, it feels like it's coming from a place of intentionality too. Like, I don't think they're just creating a product to create a product. They really have a story and a purpose behind each thing that they share also, and I love that as well.
That's great. I'm following them now. So another brand we have on our list, a jewelry account that we love to follow, is August Los Angeles, which I love this store in general. They carry all of my favorite brands. The owner is the nicest. Their store in LA actually looks a lot like their Instagram page. So in terms of alignment and the way they're presenting their jewelry online and how they present it in store, it's really, really in line. It's really intentional. It's really thoughtful. It's really consistent. They're not trying to do anything flashy. They're just trying to showcase the beauty of the jewelry and show the pieces and celebrate the designers in just a really consistent way.
Yeah, in terms of like Instagram land today and like what's cool on Instagram, I think August is kind of like boring because they're not doing, the crazy reels and this and that and the memes. Like, it's just so straightforward, but it makes me so happy because the beauty of whatever they're showing just like takes up the space, and it's just kind of quiet in that way.
Yeah, and I bet people see their posts. I bet their clients follow them closely and see their posts and call them when they see something they love or send them a DM. I bet they have a really thoughtful, engaged, and wanting to buy following.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
Eager. That's the word I was looking for. Eager to purchase. I bet their following is very eager to purchase. The last one we have on our list here before we dive into email marketing we really love is Twist online, which I love everything Twist does. I think that if you aren't on their email list, if you haven't checked out their website, if you don't know who they are and you are a fine jeweler, you should. Even if you're not a fine jeweler, because they do carry demi-fine pieces as well. But they really focus on the jewelry. And that's the vibe, having met the owners before, knowing how they greet people in their store and how their staff acts. It's all about the designers. It's all about the jewelry. And that's what their audience wants. They want to know what's new and fresh, and they want to see what the latest and greatest always. So they really are, it feels like, understanding their audience and talking to them. The pictures and videos they share really just, there's some nice fun backgrounds, but it's all about the jewelry. They're close-up shots. And then something else I love about this account is they kind of use their stories to give a little bit of flavor to their what they are as a brand, who they are as a brand. So again, it makes it more accessible to walk in the doors. They share sneak peeks of their buying trips. They also introduce their employees and showcase their employees and celebrate their employees on their birthdays and things like that. And they kind of invite you into their world, which I think is cool.
Yeah, I like that account a lot as well. So let's talk about email marketing. I put some on here. Liz had an example she loved that I also was like, oh yeah, I like that one too. The one that I am always looking at as a model, and I even reference with my clients, is Monica Rich Kosan, because this brand has nailed storytelling and they do an especially good job of communicating it in email. So go sign up for their email marketing and you will see what I'm talking about. The look of the emails are always really elegant. They're not super long. They're usually very focused and they're always driven by story. And the thing that I find so fascinating about them is they are basically saying and showing the same thing over and over and over and over again, but I never get tired of it. And I feel like I know the brand and I'm kind of comforted by that sense of consistency that they have. I know exactly what I'm going to get. If I ever want a locket that is so like imprinted in my mind that I know like I'm going to go shop there.
People want to know what to expect from you as a brand. So sometimes that consistency is really important. You don't want to be reinventing the wheel every time because people won't know what to expect from you. They won't feel that sense of comfort. And what comfort leads to is trust. So if people feel like really comfortable getting your emails, they understand what to expect from you, they're going to trust you. And that means they're going to feel really good about making a big purchase from you. And I love that you can kind of just picture their emails in your mind and you're saying that because I can too. As you were talking about it, I saw the lockets hanging, the way that image that they kind of use frequently. It's in my head. That's what good marketing does.
Yeah. And I think a lot of designers are afraid to do that because they think it's going to be boring, but it doesn't, it's not. Like, it's burned in my mind, you know, and I never tire of it. It's not like, oh, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to unsubscribe because it always feels so clean and elegant and the way they tell it is so beautiful. So I still like looking at the emails, even though it's pretty much going to be another locket hanging, you know?
Yeah, one more thing I would say about Monica Rich Kosan as a brand real quick is that even though they've gotten quite large, I still can picture the owner and they bring her into the conversation a lot and they show her telling her story, why she designs lockets, where she started. I feel like that's really infused into their brand and I think that's important.
That's a good point too. So another one I like is Lizzie Fortunato. And the reason why I like their emails is because they don't just have jewelry. I believe they have some accessories and a few home goods as well. But they talk about the jewelry in the more traditional, like fashion sense, where fashion has seasons. They have like a spring, summer, fall, winter collection. And it always feels super like it girly in that way that I feel like when I open this email, I'm going to know what's up in the fashion world. And this is kind of what they're recommending to me is going to be like the look of the season. And they release their collections in that format as well. And the emails are always super beautifully merchandised. So they make me feel like I'm like window shopping, you know, on my computer. So I really appreciate that about them.
Yeah, and so they're essentially making it easy to shop their collection, which is, I think, a larger collection. So really curating it, really sharing different stories and putting together a little merchandised email that ends up in your inbox makes it so much easier for you to know what to buy. So another email that we love is Irene Newworth. And one of the reasons I love her emails is, again, it aligns so well with her brand, her store, her website, her emails. They all tell the same story. And Irene Newworth herself, the way she dresses, the way her home is designed from the little glimpses she's shared of that, it all feels so authentic to her. And that's something I think that's really important, is that everything really works together well. And I think that she knows her customer really well. But these emails are really simple, colorful. They, again, feel very on brand, but they're also kind of joyful and they feel fun to look at. And they create, the Lizzie emails, they curate these little stories. And one that I always think about is one that was, I think, like April showers bring May flowers, and it was all their flower jewelry. And it's just really fun and they don't feel too salesy.
Yeah, and the other thing I noticed is they're really consistent with the models that they use for the brand too. And I almost feel like I know the models, and they all have like a very specific quirky look that I associate with the Irene Newirth brand, and I really like that approach as well.
I do too. They're not glam. Their models are not glam, even though this is expensive jewelry, very expensive jewelry, jewelry that you maybe wouldn't wear on a day to day basis. But they're essentially saying, yeah, wear this crazy, huge gemstone flower pendant with a t shirt and wear it to the grocery store. So I love that they use these models that kind of tell this story that they're trying to get out there too.
So, what did you think about our insights into the jewelry brands that we love and captivate us? Visit successwithjewelry.com and let us know. We'd love to know what you're thinking, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have. You'll also get access to multiple perspectives from the community members. Thanks so much for being a part of the Success with Jewelry community.
Thanks.